Hey, I'm John Greaves III. I'm the founder of Garage Gym Life, and today I've got a treat for you guys. I'm joined by the very awesome and extremely cool Calum Watson and Halinka Hart. And these are the people who are behind Flow Motion Fitness. And if you don't know what that is, you're about to find out right after this. Hey, I don't want you to just watch this video. I need you to like, subscribe, and if you're already a subscriber, I want you to join our channel for 99 cents a month so you can help us improve YouTube for the home gym community. Okay, back to the video. Holly, Calum, what's going on? How you guys doing?
We're great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited about this. It is like 7 o'clock in the morning. I know it's like afternoon for you. You guys are in Spain right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's 1:15.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 1:15 where you guys are, and it's about 7 o'clock, but I've been up since 4:45. And I didn't have to, the alarm was set for 5:30. And I woke up before the alarm because I was like, let's go. Today is the day. I'm seriously been looking forward to talking to you guys. The first thing that attracted me to what you guys do is I saw you both training barefoot.
Okay.
And I, as a martial artist, I'm accustomed to training barefoot, but it was just stuck with me because you guys were doing like the toe spaces and all this other stuff. And it was just great to me that more people were getting into barefoot training, because for a long time, people would tell me, oh God, every time I would deadlift, they would say, hey, watch your toes, you're going to hurt yourself. And I'm like,
how?
Don't you deadlift in those slippers? I mean, how does that protect you in any way? You know what I mean? So are you guys surprised by how popular barefoot training has become?
A little bit. Like when we first started kind of doing it, most people didn't notice. And then when they did notice, it wasn't a positive thing. It was like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Or that's unsanitary, or you're going to hurt your feet.
Yeah. We didn't start doing it until we started training outside of the gym.
Yeah.
Like when we trained in the gym, like sometimes like you take your shoes off and stretch in your socks or something like that.
Right,
but
right.
The gym,
you can't just take it
the
off.
gym had a rule, like
Right.
keep your shoes on,
Yeah.
because they don't, like, it's unhygienic. But
Yeah.
the minute we left the gym and we started training outdoors, like we would, like, it just made sense. Like we were on the grass, we were outside, and we were like, why are we wearing shoes? Like, get
Yeah.
your shoes off.
Get some grounding.
Get
feel
some
the ground.
grounding. Like our clients who we used to train in the gym, they left the gym, they came to start training with us outdoors. And I think like the training itself didn't really change, but just getting outdoors, being barefoot, they just enjoyed it more. You could see they just loved like the freedom of not having to train in a gym with shoes on. Like you just feel free. Take your shoes off. Most people wear shoes to work.
Yeah.
They wear slippers around the house. So like getting out and like, how many people have like squatted and lunged?
Yeah. So
like,
many people
barefoot.
turned up, and the first thing they did before the session was they took their shoes off, put their feet on the ground, and like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's freeing. And so when people hear things like grounding, it sounds very mystical. And I think that turns some people off, especially when they see, I would say to a certain extent, this is unfortunate. There are some very good positives about it, but a lot of times the people that we look to for inspiration are competitive lifters. And as a general rule, you compete in shoes. So I understand why people see it, like they just assume, oh, this must be what you're supposed to do. And I even understand the idea behind wearing lifters, when shoes with an elevated heel.
I still
For
wear
anybody
those.
who's watching. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's situation dependent. Maybe I want a little extra pushback on a heavy squat or something like that. Then yeah, I'll wear something that's got a reinforced side. And I mean, I don't have issues with depth, and we'll talk about that kind of stuff later. But if I had an issue with depth initially, yeah, sure, of course, put some lifters on.
So I have lifters. I can't get my toes in; they're too narrow. They've changed over years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I've started using a slant board with bare feet because I don't have the option of doing anything at an elevation.
And so somebody hearing this might think that's a negative, but it's actually a positive, because your feet were designed to splay. Let's say you weigh 200 pounds and you're squatting 600, right? Is it better to have that 600 supported on a surface that's that narrow or like that, you know what I mean? Like, or wide like that? Just think about it, just from a physics standpoint. Structurally, shouldn't your foot be wider to support you and stabilize you? That's just what makes sense to me.
And we're not exactly against wearing shoes either. Like we still wear shoes. Like, if we're going out for a run, like we're going to have shoes on, but they're going to be shoes that are more fitted to the shape of our feet rather than
barefoot shoes.
rather than the shape of shoes.
Yeah.
Because most shoes don't accommodate for the shape of your feet.
But
So
recently I've been saying I really want to go practice walking longer distances without
like
shoes.
barefoot,
I
yeah.
would
Right.
like to work on that. Just because it feels good and your feet feel better. I always notice like I was better at running on grass without shoes. Put shoes on, I suddenly don't run very well.
When you
So
look at kids, look at little kids, they're barefoot in the grass. They don't need to stretch. And we just assume that's because they're young. But
yeah,
your body automatically changes the mechanics of your running when you're running on grass. I think the biggest thing about running barefoot, like actually barefoot, is pollution. So people throw,
Yeah.
there's
yeah,
broken glass on the roads and things like that. And if it'll puncture my car tire, it'll probably puncture my foot, you know. So, that's the thing that's in my head. Like, again, I'm not anti-shoes either. I mean, I wear shoes to church,
yeah.
but I don't see a reason. Basically, again, it's situation dependent. Like, whatever I have on, what is it doing for me?
Yeah,
I put on a hoodie because it's cold, not as a fashion statement. I put shoes on because I need protection from XYZ, not because someone told me, who I've never met, tells me, hey, that's what your body needs. I have a knee injury from when I was in the military. And one of the first things the chiropractor tried to get me to do was wear these custom orthotics. And because he said it was affecting my hip. And so I had one hip that's rotated forward a little bit more than the other. So basically one pant leg always was longer than the other.
okay.
And so he said, well, you need orthotics. So that would kind of balance me back out. And I was like, so I didn't. So first I said no. But so many people who have orthotics marketed to them. What would you say to the people who are told, hey, you have to have these custom orthotics in order to correct some issue?
I'd first ask them a bunch of questions, like, for example, in your case where you were told you have one leg sort of in a different position, like, has he checked your hips out properly? Because the hip issue might be separate from the feet. Not everything comes from the feet. Second of all, how is something that is giving you fake support, essentially, putting you in a position, how is that going to strengthen your muscles? Your muscles are literally just going to get weaker. And over the years of training people who have been advised to wear them, they went from bad to really bad.
Yeah.
And then I was like, look, like, I did enough research to say, just honestly, in the majority of cases, they are overprescribed and other alternatives are not looked into, such as the function of the feet, the actual function of the joints in the whole body, and whether they are being trained. I mean, if most people are in very narrow shoes with like cushions at the bottom, they can't feel the ground, their toes are narrow at the big toes and the little toes are squishing in, their foot is simply not functioning properly. Like most feet have the ability to adapt and change, and that's why we change into the shape of narrow shoes. So first of all, the question is, what's been tested? Have you, like actually looked into what's not working and strengthen that first? And if you haven't, then try that first.
Yeah, try training first before using some sort of tool, some sort of aid. Because if you use that aid, you're definitely not going to get stronger. It's just gonna it's going to assist you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And for anybody watching this who's just as curious, I don't have the issue with my hips anymore. The two things that fixed it were, so basically I had to do couch stretches, dedicated couch stretching, because again, one hip flexor was just really tight. And then I started doing a lot of inversion. People who see me on like Instagram or here on YouTube, the YouTube shorts, I actually have a YouTube short where it says, if only I started doing this 5 years ago. And it's basically me just putting on some gravity boots and just hanging upside down for, it just depends on how I feel. I might go 2 minutes, I might go 10 minutes. I just hang there. And then I just feel it just start to loosen. And I'm like, oh, there we go. And it's not like a loosening, but it's more like, kind of like everything's going back to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it goes by degrees. And then I'm like, okay. And then I just feel it. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. And I do basically, I guess, a crunch or whatever, grab the bar, come down, and you feel so much lighter. People are always worried, the blood's going to rush to your head. I'll be dizzy. When I stand up, first thing is I stand up and I'm still holding onto the bar and I hang a little longer and I get the hang that way for my shoulders. And then I let go and I always feel lighter. It's very difficult to describe if you've never hung upside down, but I feel literally lighter. And I've
Yeah.
actually, I'm a little taller now that I've been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. that
I've
happens.
never, I mean, I've been upside down hanging, but only with like a German hang. I've never used the moon boots and hooked myself in.
I have,
Like that would be interesting. I'd like
I
to
have
try it.
tried it. It's quite satisfying.
Yeah, that's the best. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a strange thing to explain. Sometimes you get some nice cracks as well.
Yeah, and for people with
yeah.
like suffer with back pain, quite often say that it
Alleviates,
alleviates the back pain.
And then the second thing I said about barefoot training is, what would you, if someone wants to start training barefoot? I know there's a progression, and there's some really cool people on Instagram to follow that are training barefoot really aggressively. There's a guy named Renee. I forgot what Renee's Instagram handle is, but you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Do you remember what his Instagram handle is?
Revensky or Rzinski?
Rensky, that's what it is. Yeah, it's Rensky F or something like that. Yeah. I'll put the link in the description here so you guys can go check it out. But anyway, so he's really aggressive about it.
Yeah, he is a barefoot professional.
Yeah.
Well, what I liked that he did was he said he shows occasionally videos where he's training his feet. So he has like the smooth pebbles you can get from like a home improvement store. And he says you start walking on those and it desensitizes your feet a little bit, and then you move to it. And now he can walk on anything. He can walk on like branches and whatever, I guess.
I've seen he takes parents with him as well, doesn't he? He does like barefoot walk with parents and stuff. Like he's encouraging them to do it. It's
I think they wear shoes.
No, I've seen them.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen them go barefoot.
I mean, I would assume they're not as far along as he, but he had a really bad car accident similar to what you had. And that was what started his journey. Again, similar to Holly's situation. So let's actually, I don't think you answered that question. When I said how would someone start training barefoot?
Right. Well, I actually do recommend something like a rock mat. The Toe Space has made one. So you can just play around with it gradually in your home. Plus, it's something you could do in the winter. Most people in the winter can't really go outside and do that, so then their feet get wet.
They need to suck it up. And I'm just kidding.
I mean, we did a little bit of that, but not too much in Poland, because after a while I would definitely recommend something like textures to play around with.
Yeah, get some sensory feedback.
And I do recommend toe spaces passively to begin with, because that's just going to speed things up. When they sent us something, I think it was in 2020, they sent us some toe spaces, and I was like, cool, let's try this. And like the first month I wasn't very consistent. Then I tried it again and I was like, oh my God, like I can feel things in my lower legs and my hips that I didn't feel before by using them. But it took me 2 months to get there. So that's how I realized how long it takes to get to the point where you're comfortable wearing something like toe spaces while training, or training barefoot. Like first, it's just a case of 5 minutes passive wear of the toe spaces, 5 minutes sort of standing on the rock mat, if you can even handle 5 minutes, but like, you know, slowly. And then eventually say your gym training session is like an hour and a half, and you're barefoot training an hour and a half. That takes like months to lead up.
And if you're like new to it, obviously, like, and you've just taken your shoes off and you're training barefoot, you probably don't want to be doing like 80% of your 1 rep max barefoot straight away. You want to maybe use it for a warm up, see how you feel the next day, because I guarantee, like, you start adding weight training barefoot, you're going to feel those muscles in your lower legs, in your feet, that you maybe haven't felt before. Your arches could ache,
DOMs
your heels,
in your feet.
DOMs in your feet. They're just like, just be progressive with it.
The lifters just flat out hate stretching, and you'll hear lifters who quote studies, which are valid studies, and they show decreased force production after stretching. But my counter to that, because I had to read the studies back when I was doing this stuff for the fire department and all the stuff I told you guys offline, is that force production decrease is negated by the fact that you then do movement specific warm-ups. And so warming up potentiates your nervous system to be able to do the lift. And then you have more range of motion available in which to train. Am I accurate, or what do you guys think about that?
Well, first of all, like, there's different types of stretching, right? During a warm-up, like, we usually don't advise people do passive stretching, because in the studies, the best way to stretch is dynamic stretches. So you're moving in and out of a stretch position, basically preparing your joints for the movements that you're going to be doing in the workout.
Plus, just a note about those studies, it's
Yeah.
about a 1 rep max usually. So those that we're not usually training that every day. And
Correct.
on the day that you're testing that, do not passively stretch first. That is, yeah, sure. But that doesn't mean that that's what you do all the time.
Unless you're like, and the studies kind of like, the changes are so insignificant. It's like, unless you're elite, if you're the average like gym goer, you don't really need to worry about like losing strength through stretching. Like all you're going to get through stretching is, like you said, increased range of motion.
Yeah, and being able to strengthen that whole range, which will in time, like maybe over a longer period of time, you will eventually be able to get stronger because you have access to more muscle tissue.
Right.
So in the long run, you do actually end up stronger. In the short term, especially on a 1 rep max day, maybe there's a little tiny change in studies, but that's where it gets confusing when people will like quote those kind of studies and they're not necessarily reading the entire thing and how it's relevant to, say, an average person's training day.
So I'm going to give a message to my fellow lovers of powerlifting. The only exception to what Hallie just said about the 1 rep max thing and not stretching is if you make it so that you can't even get into position to express the strength that you've been building, then you're actually selling yourself short because you're not going to hit depth in your squat. And so this meet that you're training for, you're going to get red lighted and you're going to fool yourself into believing you've gotten stronger, get to the meet and be upset you wasted all of your money because you progressively shortened your the height. You consistently cut your weight higher and higher. If I'm in so much pain from because my chest is tight that I can't actually get into a good bench press position, that's actually going to limit my strength. And it's because your body can't get into those positions anymore because it's been running from a painful position because you haven't done the stretching you're supposed to. I'm not advocating you turn into a yogi, but I am saying you need to be able to get into the positions for your sport.
So you need to be able to generate force. You need to be able to generate strength in those positions. And if you can't do that, like say in the bottom of a squat, then your body's, the way you're going to perceive that through your central nervous system is with either pain or tightness, because your body's going to say, you can't generate force in this position, so we're going to hold you back to protect you. So people either experience pain, it's a perception of pain, because your body's saying, potentially, if you go into this position, you can't generate force here, you're susceptible to injury. And people get tightness to protect them from, that's their central nervous system saying, again, holding you back from going into a certain position.
And if you are used to doing, say, types of stretches, loaded stretches, mobility types training, isometric set and range, things like that, you're used to that as a habit. That's not going to reduce your strength. That's going to increase your strength if you combine it properly. How
do you guys like to structure your mobility work? Is it some of it on different days? Is it during your training, before, after training? How do you like to do it?
Like the main structure of my training is my strength training. So it's a compound movements first and foremost. Obviously, we warm up for those, and part of warming up for those is your dynamic stretches and whatnot. Okay. And then I try to incorporate like they're like accessory exercises, like the Cuban rotation and stuff. Okay. Into the session, into the main session. But if it's different for everyone, because if you know that you're restricted in a certain function, so say shoulder internal rotation is extremely limited for you, then you have to do like specific mobility drills and strength exercises for that. And you can work that into your strength training, because mobility training is essentially a form of strength training. We're generating like force at our end range of motion. But yeah, it's also helpful to have like some sort of daily routine to keep your joints moving. And on those days off, like during your recovery sessions and stuff, that's when you're going to work on, your restrictions, because you may not necessarily have time in your strength sessions to iron out those areas where you're restricted. So like, yeah, we'll have mobility sessions where for me, I focus a lot on shoulder internal rotation because I'm quite limited there, especially on my right side. So yeah, I'll do a lot of extra work on recovery days for that.
And it can depend also on the specific goal and what you're aiming for in that sort of period of time. So say you're saying, I'm gonna, in the next 6 weeks, just focus solely on improving the mobility and range that that my body has, then you can structure it a little bit differently. But you would need to do like mobility training techniques like the rotations, the hovers, the isometrics, the pails and rails, all that kind of stuff for a while before trying something aggressive like that. And I've done that before where I've tried to like get rid of weaknesses where I have range, but I don't have power. So I'll work on things like isometrics to the point where I'm feeling the muscles responsible for that joint function really burn up, really activate, and then I'll do my big lifts, but I won't do them as heavy. And I'll go through a phase like that, which is much more tricky, much more dangerous kind of to do. Usually, like, especially now I'm focusing more on strength, I'm now doing it the other way around. Where I'll do more dynamic stretches to get everything able to get in the full ranges, focus on the strength element. And then at the end, if there's anything that I need to still work on in terms of mobility training, then I might do a bit extra at the end. So it sometimes you can switch it around based on how you're doing your session and what the goal is exactly.
First, we did the mobility certification, teaching people how to mobility train. Now it's like, okay, how do we do strength training and mobility training like simultaneously? Because like if you want to make gains in strength and in mobility, then doing a combination of the two together is the most effective way. And like part of the program, the course that we're trying to create at the moment is just teaching people how to adapt exercises like strength exercises so that you can use full range of motion and actually improve your mobility using
because there'll be stages with people, like we're now doing modules where we're covering each lift in detail, picking it apart. We're going, all right, what joint function do you need for this? And this is what you need, this is what you need, this is what you need, this is how much you need. Say you don't have this, it generally takes X amount of months to improve this range on say your ankle. So what do you do in the meantime? You can't just force this lift. So here's an alternative lift you can do to still progress with your strength and range. And in the meantime, do these exercises for your ankle or your knee or whatever, so that you can bridge the gap.
All right. So this will be my second yoga related comment. So I hope the yogis don't at me, but the average yogi can get into a pancake. Okay. And I recognize that yoga is accessible to everyone and that anyone can do it. I get it. What I'm saying is like the average outside person who doesn't use yoga thinks of as a yogi. If you see that person, they can pancake, no problem, but they don't squat a lot of weight. And of course, for them, they don't care necessarily. They may not care about being able to squat a lot of weight, but that's the problem that we're having. Say, if you have someone who can squat a lot of weight, and then you tell them they need to improve their mobility, they look at the yoga person and say, okay, I'm not trying to be a Lululemon superstar. I want to, they maybe have sponsorships. Like, look, I have to be able to do a lot of weight. I'm not trying to do this. So what I love about what you guys said about how strength training can improve your flexibility, your range of motion, is because if you look at Olympic lifters, there is a video that Dmitry Klokov put out showing his warm-up, and he's getting into a pancake, and that guy is phenomenally strong. But a lot of it's just related to the fact that the demands of his sport required that he got into positions that required him to have full range of motion. That's why you have like the Ivan Chakarov, I think he's got this famous poster on Ironmind where it's called the no squat. No belt, no wraps, no spotters. He's going rock bottom with, I think 600 pounds right before maybe a day or so before the Worlds. And you see Olympic lifters doing that, just like that's just normal. Whereas power lifters look at it like, oh my God, that's bad for you. It's going to hurt you. It's this and that. Bodybuilders aren't even interested in going to parallel because they're squatting for the purposes of developing their quads, and they'll do something else for their hamstrings and their glutes. So I think that for someone who is what I would consider the baseline home gym owner, who is picking and choosing from different training modalities, it's really efficient if they have a way to train that doesn't add to our already limited schedules.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I like things like the C.A.R.s.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because if you think about the average person spends a lot of time not moving, first of all, quite sedentary, sitting down at work, driving. And then at the gym as well, like the majority of people do have quite a limited variety of movements that they do. Like if you're just bench pressing, overhead pressing, squatting and deadlifting, you're not using your joints to their full potential. Like they're capable of so much more because we're rotational, like all our joints are rotational. So what controlled articular rotations do is it's basically a way of using your joint to its full potential every single day.
It's a nice way to check in too.
Yeah, and a nice way to look at it is like use it or lose it. Like if you don't go into certain ranges of motion over time, you're going to lose control in those ranges. So controlled articular rotations are about going into that range and gaining control over the joint, over the tissue in the capsule.
Maybe one thing we also don't think about much is mind to body connection and feeling
your
body in space and time. And that's one thing that C.A.R.s can give you very often during the day if you use it as a break, because it means you can sort of check in going, oh, my shoulder adduction actually feels awful today. What's going on? You can catch something happening to your body very quickly, and it should reduce your likelihood of ending up with some kind of imbalance because you're going to catch it straight away. And
like one thing you notice, like you yourself, like you say you've been doing them, you notice like certain areas, don't you, on your shoulder? If you're doing your shoulder, for instance, you'll notice like, oh, when I come back here, like I'm less controlled. And it's like it's like controlled articular rotation. It's about gaining control over
I didn't mean to trigger you. I know that you posted about about controlled. The control means controlling articular rotations. You keep posting about that. I'm sorry, we triggered him. I'm sorry. I mean, I
and the cool thing is that they're so scalable as well. Like you can regress them and you can progress them. So if you're on like level 1 just doing body weight C.A.R.s, you can add weight. You know, you can add, like you can start adding, you can increase it like any other exercise, and you can progressively overload it and increase like tissue strength in those positions. So
I hadn't actually planned on doing this, but we're getting ready to wrap up here, and I wanted to kind of help people see what we're talking about, right? So I'm obviously sitting down in a desk, and you guys are sitting down as well. So the easiest thing would be to show something that you guys can do, that someone could do sitting at their desk. So could you just show them a shoulder C.A.R?
So I'll just shuffle over so you can see a little bit. So actually sitting down doing shoulder C.A.R s is quite good because then it's harder to extend your spine because you're slightly flexed. So you're going to isolate the shoulder joint more. But yeah, basically you just want to isolate whichever joint it is we're focusing on. So we'll say right shoulder. So my arm's nice and straight, creating a fist. Creating a fist and squeezing is really important because it creates that internal, we call it a radiation, but it's just internal tension. Like if you do that, all your muscles will activate, you're less likely to compensate and bend your arm. For example, you keep your arm nice and straight, you're just gonna push your shoulders down so that you're not shrugging upwards. And then from here, we're just gonna come in towards the midline of our body and up overhead into shoulder flexion. So everyone's different. This might be your end range of shoulder flexion here. You might be limited, and that's fine. Just use your available range of motion without compensating. Once we get to the bicep, to the ear, so we're in full shoulder flexion, we're going to start rotating in the shoulder joint and moving back behind us, internally rotating now. And we're coming all the way back behind the body into shoulder extension and then down by our side. It's a bit difficult here because I'm on the sofa. And then
but it would be easy if you're in an office chair.
It'd be really, it'll be really easy on an office chair. And then you're going to push back into shoulder external rotation. We always talk about with C.A.R s, like look for those blocks. So push back into shoulder external rotation, you'll get stuck because you've reached your end range of motion. Then you're going to rotate the shoulder, open up, externally rotate, bringing your bicep up towards your ear, and then back down across the midline of the body and into the center.
But then the next question people can ask is, well, how long does it take for this to work?
A general rule with mobility training is because we are using connective tissue, we are training connective tissue specifically, that technically takes like 7+ months to fully form, but that doesn't mean you're going to feel nothing until 7+ months. You'll feel changes in the first couple of weeks, and you'll be progressively making changes consistently, as long as you are consistent, obviously. But I do view this as give it a year or two to really see what your body can do, because you'll be surprised how far you can take it.
Okay.
Like usually people get into this kind of stuff because they're in pain. And they're like, I just want to get out of pain. And it's like, well, that's a specific journey. But in terms of, you know, when you want to look at what your body's starting to really be able to do, you're probably looking at like 8 to 12 months.
So you guys have, as I said, you have your course material. You've got, and if anybody is interested in just kind of seeing what these guys are about, obviously they can check out your Instagram. You've got free follow along training here on YouTube. Basically, people can just go check that out. Then the next step after that would be they go to your website. So there's the online coaching and then there's certifications. Talk about the difference between
the CPT mobility certification. It's all online and it's internationally certified, so anyone can take it anywhere. But it's generally for people who are movement enthusiasts that want to learn about the science behind mobility training, joint testing, joint functions, and then how to program.
Okay.
We also cover things like hyper versus hypomobility, so different tissue types, like training different populations, and like performance optimization with just natural techniques. So that's for coaches, for sure. Coaches or people that are movement enthusiasts. We have a bunch of programs that are 12-week programs that you can actually take for longer if you want, but we
actually, hold on a second. Let me stop you right there. I apologize. So you just said movement enthusiasts, and that's going to make people say immediately they're thinking about that yoga person again, right? But let me say, let's say you decide, hey, I would love to be able to do this thing.
Yeah.
This move, I don't know. I want to be able, I want to be able to scratch my own back. There's that. Yeah. But then there's also, I want to be able to maybe do a dragon flag. Okay. Or maybe I want to do a pistol squat.
It's kind of like as well, it's people who
enjoy
like
moving,
it's
training.
People who want to take their training into their own hands without having to hire a coach. It's like, you know, like before I became a coach, I would probably consider myself a movement enthusiast. And that's what got me into coaching, because I was like, I just wanted to learn about the body, and I was like reading like bodybuilding magazines back in the day, like just trying to learn it all, because I wanted to design the programs myself. So it's for people like that. Yeah. Like you don't have to be a coach. If you just want to learn how to do mobility training to improve your life, then it could be for you.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like you see people do cool, and I'm not suggesting anybody do anything dangerous, but I'm saying you see people do cool things on Instagram, especially, or I guess on TikTok as well, where you just like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. I wish I could do that. A hand, I want to be able to do a crow pose. I want to be able to do a handstand. Maybe you want to do a back. Hey, I'd love to be able to do a back bridge. Just whatever. Okay, that's you're a movement enthusiast and you just didn't even know it.
Because in the course, like we will teach you how joints function and what muscles are responsible for that. And, you know, that way you can break down a movement and go, oh, it's a handstand. I actually need a lot of shoulder flexion that I might not have right now. How do I get there? So that's what that course is for. But if you're somebody that doesn't want to learn it all themselves, you want a program that's like
just tell me what to do.
Yeah, just tell me what to do. How do I do it in the most scientifically, quickest, fastest way possible? That's what the 12-week programs are for, that we cover every single joint function for. Say we go, okay, this is the ankle program, this is the knee program, this is the shoulder program, the hip program. We cover everything that you need in that.
Is that the one-on-one coaching, the hip program?
This is where it gets confusing, because we have a lot of different things. We've got programs, which are 12-week programs on a PDF, which are, they have a support group. So we've got a WhatsApp support group.
But they're not tailored.
They're not tailored.
They're not specific.
It's a template.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have the 12-week strength and mobility program, which actually now is on an app.
So they get
coach feedback.
Okay.
And we have a whole team of me, Calum and Kim, helping people with that.
And then the coaching, the one-to-one coaching, that's for people that, like, you know, they want to reach specific goals. Like they don't just want to improve shoulder mobility. They've got like some really specific goals. They want to work with the coach. They want the movement assessment, like the joint assessment, to figure out what their restrictions are. And then it's tailored like one-to-one coaching where, you know, we work with you online. But yeah, we're just there for you, constantly changing your program, adapting exercises, talking to you on the phone, like just full support, basically.
Yeah. Sometimes we have people say, I want to they just get a consultation.
Yeah, they just want
book in. And if we do the full assessment, we have a chat with them, and we go, you know what, you don't actually need that much personalization. You can just go onto the course. Or we do things where people don't need that much help. We'll put them on the strength and mobility program, and we'll slightly add extra bits for them, but that's about it. So it's not fully personalized. So it depends on the person. That's the thing. Like when we do consultations, we really just want to find out what they need. That's what it's for. And then we'll figure out
if someone has, if someone's in pain or has injuries that they're dealing with, then we never recommend just going for one of the programs.
No,
like we always like that needs us to look at you, do a joint assessment, and then for us to work with you to help you get through that pain, because you know, a program's pre-made. It's not gonna,
and we can't like sort of that's the good thing about the app. So when we coach people online, when we do online coaching, when we do the 12-week strength and mobility program, there's options for them to send back their videos. So we can go, oh, okay, you're actually maybe not doing that movement that well. We can change the movement for you and add extra work for the joint function. So if someone's in pain, we do recommend personalization so that we can work on those imbalances and, you know, avoid any further pain, because we don't want someone to just go for a program and then do it on their own. Maybe they're not doing it properly. They don't really, you know, and we can't check.
All right. Well, we are going to get ready to check out you guys' home gym, because you have, you guys are like home gym nomads. You take your gym wherever you happen to go. And I think that's really, really exciting. And I got a bunch of questions about that. So if you guys want to watch and check out Holly and Calum's home gym, all you got to do is check out the video that's popping up right after this. But before we do that, I want you guys to let people know where they can follow you on social media and how they can get more information about your coaching, how they can hire you as coaches, or how they can order a course. All right. So just give them all the details right now.
Cool. So yeah, you can find out everything on flowmotionfitness.co.uk. You can order, you know, the certification course on there, any 12-week programs, and get in touch with us about online coaching. On social media, you can find me under Halinka Hart on Instagram and TikTok, and
Calum Watson PT on Instagram for me, and TikTok, I think Calum Watson PT as well. Yeah.
Cool. We also have a YouTube, Flow Motion Fitness.
Yeah, Flow Motion Fitness YouTube.